This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 22nd of April 2020, and I am DM.
I'm Tom.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are. In the Daily Nation, what oil price crash means for Kenyans. In the Standard, broken promises. And in the Star, 7 Kenyans join race to find COVID-19 vaccine.
Right.
Yes, so a bit of good news, but also Standard telling us maybe not so good news. Why don't you kick us off with the Daily Nation?
Daily Nation. What oil price crash means for Kenyans. Now, this has never happened before, and this virus will show us things. Now, the price of Brent crude in America, the cost per barrel of crude has gone down to minus $37.
Unprecedented.
Wow.
Unprecedented.
Yeah.
Yesterday I fueled, and I asked the guy, how fuel imeenda ngapi? Akasema 32 shillings per liter. It's gone down. It's now cheaper than diesel. Now, this is going to have ramifications to our economy, and I think good ramifications. First thing that's going to happen is the import bill will go down. Cost of production will go down because largely we use fuel to run our generators, our production machines, our factories, our cars, our trucks. The cost of transport will also go down. The component of foreign currency in your electricity bill will also shoot down. Yeah. Generally, I think this corona has probably brought us some silver lining.
So cost of living generally
goes down.
It's better for Kenyans at this time.
It will definitely dip.
Does negative $37 a barrel mean that the producers of oil are actually paying people to offload the oil from them?
Yes, that's exactly what it means. And you know why? Because there is a glut.
There's a glut.
You know what's happened? Airports in the world have closed.
Absolutely.
Airliners are parking their planes.
Fuel is sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, factories have slowed down because people are at home. You know, so generally what we are being told is there's no demand for fuel.
I think the nation should have crafted this
differently.
This headline differently to actually demonstrate the good news and have, maybe this was the time for them to be more detailed, like the way the Star is usually.
So we have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. Are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy? I think we'll put this in the parking bay. This is good news.
Yes.
And let's look at the Standard. The Standard is telling us broken promises by the government. So frontline healthcare workers had been promised adequate personal protective equipment, which they say has not been delivered, so health workers are suffering a little bit there. Kenyans had also been promised mass testing, but on Sunday the government told us they'll be doing targeted testing as well instead. And then there were also promises to fully equip isolation centers in the counties, and that's not happening. Apparently, governors are struggling to convert those classrooms and ill-equipped hospitals into healthcare centers to deal with COVID-19 patients. And finally, additionally, COVID-19 funds have not been sent to the counties as had been promised by the national government. And so these are some of the things that the Standard is telling us is happening, and that's why they're calling it broken promises. I think it's I'm not 100% sure how true some of these stories are, but I would give credit to the government for so far attempting to do their best, and I think they're really trying. In the first few weeks they stumbled, organizing and coordinating the return of people, putting them in quarantine facilities. And then, just yesterday, for example, we saw that 50 Kenyans escaped from quarantine. Now, how do you help people like these?
You see, JM as well. I mean, look at it this way. These are fellows, and I think government should take a little bit of blame. If you're going to quarantine fellows and tell them you're going to do it at your own cost, these guys are staying in places and they're being forced to pay about 6,000, 7,000 bob a night. And these are fellows who cannot be able to afford that kind of thing. What do you expect them to do? They will, of course, they will escape. Now, if government's going to do it at its own cost, nobody actually minds being in quarantine. After all, the cost per meal of living every single day will be mitigated by government. Every Kenyan will want to be under quarantine.
But to be frank, the quarantine facilities are not that great. I mean, we're not talking about 5-star facilities at KMTC or whatever else people are escaping from. I've heard stories, and it's going back to the boarding school experience in Kenya, which we all know can be traumatizing for most. My advice to the government is to in terms of managing people's expectations, they should under-promise and then over-deliver as a way of making themselves look good. I think we toss this headline.
I think so, very far.
And what do we have in the Star?
The Star is telling us that 7 Kenyans have joined the race to find the vaccination for COVID-19, which is great news. They've said that 7 vaccine candidates have been developed, and they will be narrowed down to the most promising. So the Kenya Medical Research, Medical Research KEMRI
Institute,
the DG, Professor Yeri Kombe, said that the final prototypes will undergo more tests before clinical trials, where they try it on animals and then eventually try it on people. And then he also said that they're analyzing the results to determine if the virus has a different strain amongst Kenyans, the virus that causes COVID-19. And he also said that Kenya has conducted the second highest number of full genome sequences in Africa. Guess which one is the first? The DRC.
Oh, wow.
The DRC is, and understandably, because they are just coming out of the
another epidemic.
Of another epidemic. I think this is wonderful news.
I think it's fantastic.
And we definitely applaud these scientists. This is the kind of news that should be sent to those racist scientists in France who are saying that they should test their vaccines on the African population. And the thing that I really like also about our local scientists developing vaccines is that they're using our own genomes, they're looking at our genetic patterns to determine what kind of vaccine would work the best for us specifically. So it's very targeted.
I see.
I fully agree. And you know what COVID has taught us? That we can be able to profile solutions customized to our own realities ourselves. We need not have Western companies, pharmaceuticals, Chinese companies giving us solutions. We can produce 1 million masks a day.
So this is another silver lining, as you were saying.
Yes,
absolutely.
Silver lining.
A good story, great story there, but headline a bit too wordy. Maybe we toss it. I don't know what you guys think, or do we?
I see you're leaning towards the
Daily Nation.
The Daily Nation.
With the oil price crash. Fantastic.
Great.
So that's our winning headline.
Yeah, but JM, before we move to cartoons,
there
was an online headline by the Standard today.
Yes.
And it was captioned that the headline was that the KENEI murder probe will be restarted by DCI. And they are saying that 3 cops from Annex will be interviewed by DCI. And I feel that the beginning of lighting small fires around William RUTO has begun again.
Begun?
Reigniting.
Or continuing?
Okay, so it's actually continuing.
Round 2.
It's happening. I just wonder what they will probably tell us next week. I feel like they're going to come with something huge.
Some bombshell.
Speaking of the fires around William RUTO, I would like to say though that I'm finding it quite surprising, the response from DP RUTO's campaign, from DP himself, about being attacked. I mean, this is an occupational hazard. You can't become a politician who wants to be the president of Kenya and not expect to be attacked. Machiavelli said that those who will be leaders of a principality and who get there through difficulty will govern with ease. So if you want to govern with ease, take the attacks.
Expect some arrows coming your way.
Take them in your stride. Wonderful. So we've got a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the political cartoons, the political pieces we call cartoons in the country. Are they humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally effective or just plain lazy? What do we have in the Daily Nation?
Daily Nation, you have ambassador to China, Kenya's ambassador to China, Sarah Serem. And she seems to be supporting a Chinese sport. And in the middle between Chinese sport and some red thing is a Kenyan guy who seems trapped. And the caption there is, Kenyans can come home from China at their own cost. Look, I think the caption here is, look, these guys have been finured already. Now you're telling them to come back from China at their own cost, and they have already expended whatever amount of money they had. And I can see right there their bags. So how do you expect someone to come at their own cost? I think point is here, look, blaming Sarah Serem to me is futile. It should not happen. The blame should actually lie at MFA.
Yeah, I think so too.
It should lie at MFA, because you cannot have a policy that seems so, it seems like you really haven't thought about it, and it's actually defending the Chinese.
But unfortunately, in life, people never blame the person responsible. They always blame the person in charge.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe the people responsible for a blunder in terms of policy is the Nairobi office, it's Rachel Omamo, it's the PS. But who's in charge? As far as the people in China are concerned, Sarah Serem is in charge. And so that's her battle to confront.
I think you're both right. So what I think Kenyans should do is blame both. And of course, Sarah Serem, as 2M is saying, she's a diplomatic scapegoat.
Yes.
She's employed by the government of Kenya. She's sent there by the Ministry of Finance and she's of Foreign Affairs. And she says what it is that she's told to say. Correct. She responds in the way that she's told to respond. And beyond that, she can't use her pocket money to fly Kenyans back home. She has no power to open Kenyan boundaries to allow flights to come in.
She has some discretionary funds.
JM. This is the mother continent, right? The Chinese get resources from this continent of ours in order for their factories to run in China. We can be able to dictate terms. It's time we start knowing our value. We cannot start telling Kenyans out there,
but
please come at your own cost.
We can't do them because our leaders are co-opted.
Look, for goodness sake, guys, other countries are evacuating their citizens. The Nigerians are asking the Chinese, why the hell are you treating our people like this? We can make a call to China and say, can you please get your act together? We need not. For how long will we see Africans being treated the way they are being treated? At some point, we need to stand up.
So as Kenyans are putting pressure on Sarah Serem, who is a scapegoat and can do very little, they should also apply even more pressure here where the people responsible are.
Yes.
Absolutely. They should direct their anger to the people who are responsible. Indeed. Let me describe in terms of the cartoon, is it effective?
It's effective. It has spurred conversation, passionate conversation.
Fine. I think we park that. I'll take us to the cartoon of the Standard. And Gado has drawn for us part 2 of the coronavirus Mythbusters. And he's demarcated into 6 parts, and I'll read them out. There is no evidence that eating garlic has protected people from the new coronavirus. No, hand dryers are not effective in killing the coronavirus. No, spraying alcohol all over your body will not kill viruses that have already entered your body. Taking a hot bath does not prevent the new coronavirus disease. The new COVID cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. And finally, no, antibiotics do not work against viruses, only bacteria. Thank you, Gado, for giving us a very informative piece. I like it. I personally think this should be our
He's using his platform to educate, which is good because pandemics and epidemics always come with myths.
When people are desperate, they will come up with
and these myths tend to expose people. 2 things. They expose people to the disease even more because they are misinformed or ill-advised. And then the other thing is that they also stigmatize people. That's the direction that they usually go eventually.
Well, actually... yes, but Gado could also be wrong here a little bit. He said that taking a hot bath does not prevent the new coronavirus disease. But actually, I think if we take a hot bath with soap and wash our hands for 20 seconds and wash our bodies for 20 seconds, we will kill whatever bacteria, whatever viruses might be there on our bodies. So anyway, food for thought. What do we have in the Star?
2M.
Ozone. You have this fellow. I think, is he taking alcohol? Anyway, it's a drawing of someone who has something connected from his brain, and it's actually a microchip on his head, but then the brain is elsewhere in his body, correct? And then there is a shadow of someone and corona, and the caption there is jump, jump, jump. What does this mean? I
don't know. Actually, I looked at the cartoon and I thought that on his head there's an image of jail bars with sheets tied together by knots coming out of the jail window. falling down, the silhouette of the man, and what is escaping, or maybe it's referring to the people who escaped from Mbagathi. So it's the brains are escaping from people's heads.
I couldn't understand this cartoon. It was too complex.
Oh yes. Oh, you're right, because there's a reason why the caption is jump, jump, jump. The brains are jumping out.
And it's the coronavirus saying jump, jump, telling the brains to jump
out of the case.
But how many brains does one person have?
So who do we award the cartoon to?
Not to Ozone.
Okay, not to Ozone.
I think we give it to Ndula.
Right.
Ndula was quite effective.
Winning cartoon to Ndula.
Let's give it to Ndula.
Yeah. And so what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg.
Smarter, Better, Faster, the secrets of being productive in life and in business. It was written in 2019. The author combines personal stories and business research to show that being productive is not just about realizing the lists, the things in your to-do list, but it's also about managing your choices and maintaining the right mindset. I think this is a very apt read at this time when a lot of people are working from home. And finding that they are their own managers, first of all, and they're also working in an environment that is not as structured as their office or their place of work. And there are also many distractions. So because we're in a chaotic environment most of the time with our children, your livestock, managing your household, the first advice that he gives us is stick to your goals, the goals that you have determined you want to reach, stick to them. And he says that there's some people who just naturally do what it is they have set out to do.
Correct.
Whatever happens, they fall ill, there are distractions, there are challenges along the way, but they stick to their goal and they do it. However, not very few of us are like that. Most of us, normal people, will succumb to distractions. So he says the good news is that you can actually train yourself and you can learn to stick with a plan. Even if the world keeps throwing distractions at you. And we live in actually a time when there's so many distractions, if it's social media, if it's whatnot. One way, he says, to stay focused on your goals is to anticipate these distractions. So if you anticipate, you can prepare to either avoid them or to navigate them or to minimize the extent to which they will disrupt your work or your goal. For instance, if you're working at home and you have a specific task that you need to do for a precise amount of time, one of the things that you could do is to block your email notifications if you find that this is the thing that pulls you away from what you're doing. So it's a very good book to read to boost your productivity at this time.
And still along the theme of goals, just before you go to him, he tells us that we should start with we should plan with two sets of goals in mind. The first are what you call stretch goals, and those are your biggest ambitions. And he challenges people to dream big, to have goals that are superbly ambitious. And he says studies have shown that people are more creative when they reach for higher and bigger goals. So you start with your stretch goal. After defining your stretch goal, you define what you call your SMART goals. SMART goals break up your stretch goal into manageable parts. They are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So he gives an example and he says, let's say your stretch goal is to run a marathon. What you will subsequently do is now break that into a smaller, more specific step, such as, for example, be able to run 6 miles without stopping. That's one. A second step, you could say that in week 1, I will run 2 miles. In week 2, I will run 3 miles. In week 3, I will run 4 miles and I'll combine it with the gym. And before you know it, by maybe about 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever time period you've given yourself, you will be able to achieve that goal. And I want to liken it to something else. Let me put it differently. Your attitude, even as you confront and even as you execute your goals, should be like that of the lion. The lion, we know, is not the biggest animal in the jungle, but it is the king. Right? And it is the king because of its mindset. Because in a lion's mind, nothing is impossible. Everything can be conquered.
Absolutely.
And so you know, the lion believes that he is the king. So it's when it sees an elephant 5 times bigger than him, he doesn't tremble, he doesn't cower. He calls his fellow lions to come and help him take down the elephant. And before you know it, they're persistent enough and they take down an elephant 5 times their size. So the lesson there really is to break down. you break down the elephant into bite-sized chunks, and before you know it, you'll have achieved your goal.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, my takeaway from this, guys, was the chapter on managing others. And you see, he says something that I so agree with. He says, managers and employers must inculcate the culture of trust throughout the organizations, bottom up, everywhere, horizontal, east, west. Inculcate the culture of trust within the organization. And but what does this mean? He cites the Japanese model production, with in particular Toyota. He says Toyota adopts a lean and agile thinking way of doing production, but they also give autonomy to their workers to think for them, to make decisions at the lowest possible level. Now, he gives a story of a man called Rick Madrid. Rick Madrid was employed by General Motors in a plant in California. Now, General Motors got into a deal with Toyota to start producing some cars in California. But before they could start, they sent this guy called Rick Madrid to Japan to see how Toyota does its work. Now, Rick Madrid then used to work for General Motors, and the mode of production was you are told what to do. You don't think for yourself. And even then, what they used to do at the plant was crazy. Sometimes, even during production, they used to drink whiskey. And they would finish a bottle of whiskey, put it underneath, put it in between the panel of the door and the plastic cup and the plastic place. And when when a guy is driving the new car, the bottle of whiskey would wriggle, you know. And you see,
so you buy a new car, you're driving it, and you hear a bottle of whiskey, a bottle rattling.
You know, rattling in the car. That's because General Motors' aim was to mass produce for people. Now, when he went to Toyota for training, what he saw surprised him. Now, at the assembly line, he saw this guy with this thing that shoots bolts into the doors of cars. Now, this guy shoots a bolt, but he misses, and the bolt goes to a wrong place. Now, he wants to rectify it, so he stops the entire assembly line, and so that he can fix it. So he calls his superior, something that doesn't happen in the States. Comes with a tray of things, collects some bolts, takes the same gun and shoots back the bolt in the correct place, finishes painting, panel beats and all that, and the car becomes good. Now, what he says shocked him, because because in America that would never have happened. And I just want to read what he saw and the impact it made in his career. It says, I just did not believe I had seen a guy fall in the... I just didn't believe what I saw. I had seen a guy fall in the pit and they did not stop the line. This was in America. For so many years, you did not stop the line, no matter what. I had been told it cost $15,000 if you stopped. $15,000 a minute if you stop the assembly line. But for Toyota, quality came before income. It tells you a lot. This young man who was, this Japanese young man who was fixing the line at Toyota had autonomy and had the trust of his superiors to fix the problem before it ended up at the other end of the assembly line. And that's what it meant for Toyota to come out with quality cars and sell more than any other car maker in the world.
That's why the car in front of you
is always a Toyota.
Well done. All right. So, on a day that we had a winning headline, the winning headline by the Daily Nation and a winning cartoon by the Daily Nation as well, I will ask that you don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Thank you.